So, I get it. Sometimes you might be thinking, I wonder if there's something wrong with me. I wondered that almost all the time. I've done so much over the years, decades even, of different therapies. I did group therapy and hypnotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy and somatic therapy. I really liked that one. And art therapy. I even got the chance to take advantage of 2 different psychiatrists through different means and ends. And I asked my second one, is there something wrong with me? And he said, likely. So now I work as when I can, as a professional MC and a teacher, and I love performing for audiences. I'm always in front of people trying to entertain them. It's very dangerous that they gave me a microphone. I didn't realize we were going to have one. It was like, oh no, I'm going to turn into performer guy. But when I'm in a small group of people, I get riddled with anxiety. I get so scared when I'm in small groups of people, and I have to often just run away and get away from them. I told my first psychiatrist this, like, I don't understand why I can stand. Some people are terrified to stand in front of a giant group of people. That's where I'm happiest. But when I'm in a small group of people, I feel very, very clammy. And he said, maybe you don't know what to do when you're not the center of attention. And I went, wow. The way I describe it, I'm kind of charming and awkward. The way you describe it, I'm a total jerk. So, after so much self-destructive behavior and so many emotional collapses and explosions and one suicide attempt, I finally said to the second psychiatrist, what can we do? So he suggested that I do some tests. I did a series of questionnaires, a series of surveys and interviews with him, and then he came back with the diagnosis that I was in the big book of mental health disorders, likely schizotypal. Schizotypal is a very sort of rare neurodivergent condition. Only 1,000 cases a year in Canada, and oddly enough, mostly male. And they're not sort of 100% sure where it comes from or how you get it, but it is likely linked to trauma. So then, working with a psychiatrist, we examined where that might have started. It started when I was, apparently, sort of preteen going into the teen years. Like, which of my inner children is causing me this problem? It turns out it was the teens. There were 3 kind of things that came together into this lovely holy grail of withdrawal. First one was when my mom remarried, we moved around a lot. So I was about 11, 12 years old, just starting to learn about how to connect with people, like in the schoolyard and stuff. So we moved 4 times in 5 years. So I would just be getting to meet someone and go, hey, do you like Batman? And then we'd be like, oh, gotta go. So I was constantly always going into situations where I was new and awkward and didn't know anybody. And I also was learning not to make friends because I was likely going to lose them very quickly. It was more like having acquaintances. Well, we're gonna hang out for a while, but then I gotta go. And this is before Facebook. This is before, it's even before MySpace, right? If they were gone, they were just gone. They were just gone. So we finally settled in Victoria, and now I'm about 14, and something horrible starts to happen. I start to notice boys. It's the early 80s, and one of the fashion trends then was really short shorts and crop tops. I didn't just notice boys, I noticed a lot of the boy. I realized pretty quickly, fuck, I'm gay. And at this time, gays were mocked and teased and made fun of or murdered in TVs, movies, in school. So I knew, okay, I can't tell anyone about this. And because I wasn't telling anybody about this, I didn't have anyone to get any help with this. So I was just rolling into my head. So I was already in my head when I was in the school, and now I'm further into my head when I realize, I'm gay. So what I figured I'll do is I'll just act super straight. No one will know. That wasn't gonna work. So I just got super quiet and sullen, but then I found the theater kids. So I drifted over to them. And at our school, we had like a cafeteria, and then there was a corridor and the drama room. So we hung outside the drama room in that corridor, talking and laughing and talking about Les Miserables and cats and stuff like that. And what happened was I started to get comfortable. And so I started talking and playing, and a little bit of gay leaked out. And it was like blood in the water, and the rest of the school were sharks. Because suddenly, all the eyes were on me. Well, not all the eyes, some people didn't care. So now I was like, I've been discovered. So that meant every time I walked down the hallway, my eyes were constantly looking for danger as I walked down the hallway. I would keep my head pulled in and would just try to get to my classroom or get to where I was going. But I couldn't look in every direction all the time, and every now and then I would be shoved into a locker. Well, not like shoved into a locker. I was pushed up against a locker. They didn't put me in one. And often being called names and stuff. So it became kind of terrifying to be in the school. I had to figure out, how do I get into the building? How do I get to where I have to go? Where do they hang out so I could not go that way? And how can I get to my drama peeps but always be at the back of the corridor, so if I'm going to be goofy and sing songs, I'm far away from prying eyes. One of the things that seemed to be happening, the influence of people talking about the gay guy, seemed to expand out into the neighborhood. I'm mowing the lawn, and I suddenly see 3 boys on their bikes, and I see that they see me. So I quickly start mowing the lawn this way, and they skid their bikes on the road in front of the house, in front of the lawn, and they start calling me faggot and stuff like that. I'm not so terrified of them as I am that my family's in the house. I don't want them to hear. So I move closer to them so they don't have to shout. But I guess when I moved closer to them, it looked like I was confronting them, because I then got punched in the face. It's like I literally ran into the fist. I wasn't hitting him. He threw himself into my fist. I fell to the grass, and lying there dazed in the grass, I see them biking off, laughing. I quickly get up and I run to my basement bedroom just to check to see if there are any marks, because I don't want any evidence of anything that I would have to explain how I got it. Thankfully, there was no mark. It was just enough to knock me back and onto the ground, but not enough to scar me. And when I went upstairs, it seemed like nobody had heard what they said. Okay, good. Good. The secret's still a secret. I'll just not tell anyone about that. I'll just keep that all in my head. So I figured out how to survive the school. But then it got worse, because if you might recall, in the early 80s, by the time we get to about 83, 84, there were big changes in the world. I was lying, 5 minutes left, my God, I'm not even close to being end. Sorry, they have a thing here that says wrap up. Sorry, I went way too long. I'll tell you this part. Jesus. I'm lying on the couch, actually on the floor, reading a comic book, and suddenly a news anchor goes, "A mysterious new disease is killing people without warning. Gay men, intravenous drug users, hemophiliacs, and Haitians." Apparently Haitians were on the list at the beginning. I see the TV right away. I freak out. I wonder, I feel like my parents are looking at me. My stepfather and my mother are looking at me. But they're not, they're talking. So I go, holy crap, now what? I'm in a washroom, a public washroom, and I see a sign, graffiti that's written on the wall that says, "What's the worst part about getting AIDS? Trying to convince your parents you're Haitian." So I kept that inside. I find out, as we find out more stuff about AIDS, that you could only get it through sex, sexual contact. So I go, okay, won't have sex. I don't tell anyone, of course, you don't report that. The last thing I'll say really quick in terms of the trauma, because I only have 4 minutes left now, is the stepfather. He and I didn't get along. We didn't get along very well once he entered the picture. And I remember one day, quite clearly, I was going up the basement stairs, rather nonchalantly, to go and have my shower and get ready for school. But when I opened the door, I meet him. He's right in front of me. And his eyes are filled with anger. I'm looking, and he says, "I don't want to see your ugly, pimply face up here before I have my breakfast." I quickly look past him to see if my mom or my sister are going to say anything. They don't. So I just closed the door and went back down the stairs. And I sat on the edge of my bed. And I wasn't too sure what's supposed to happen. Like, am I going to be given a signal when I can come upstairs? But finally, I hear his car on the gravel road drive away. So I run upstairs quickly, and now there's no time to shower or wash my face. So I just quickly have breakfast and I go to school, and I am positive that I stink. And the acne on my face has gotten bigger and worse because I haven't been able to wash. But while I'm at school, I'm in my head, and I come up with an idea. And when I get home, I ask my mom if I could borrow the heating pad, and if I can borrow the plastic tub that's underneath the sink. And I get a towel. And that night, when I get ready for bed, I take the plastic tub and I fill it with hot water from the basement sink. I plug in the heating pad, I put the tub on the water, filled with water on the heating pad, and I put the towel over it. I'm pretty proud of this clever idea. I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, and I go, oh yeah, ugly David not allowed upstairs. But then I see my washing station. I go over, I lift up the towel, the water's still warm. So I can wash myself. I wash my hair, I wash my face. I'm like, yeah. This is a really clever idea. And then the car drives away, and I run upstairs and I have breakfast, and that's a success. I'm so proud of my very, very clever idea that I want to tell people, guess what I did? I washed myself in my room. It's not something you brag about. So I didn't tell anyone, except for you people. And that went on for several months. So this combination of the moving, the gay thing, the ugly thing, kept me so much in my head all the time. There was no real epic violence, the punch to the face. I mean, there was a little bit of that stuff in the school, but there was always just the threat of it. So that's when as I grew up, I discovered I have a tough time with relationships with people, with trust, with properly communicating, and that's why the psychiatrist said you are likely, of all the choices in this book, schizotypal, and how that manifests for me, and then I'll go into my conclusion. How that manifests for me is that I often am riddled with anxiety and depression. And I, like I said at the beginning, had some self-destructive behaviors. But the good news is, I don't drink myself to blackout drunk anymore. I used to be a secret drinker. A lot of people went, "You're a drinker?" It's like, oh, I was really good at it. Nobody knew, except the local beer and wine stores. I no longer smoke anymore. I quit both of those a while ago, and I'm now a vegetarian. And I'm reading, because one of the other symptoms of schizotypal is it's a little bit like not being able to, like Asperger's or autism, that you're not picking up social cues. So I often interrupt people or I go on tangents. So I'm now reading lots of books on how real people interact, how different people talk to each other, how to communicate with people, turn directly to them and look them in the eye, stand as they enter the room, say their name. And I'm trying to figure out more and more as I'm moving into the last half of my life, getting pretty old. How do I navigate now that I have this information? I see it as a good thing to have this diagnosis. So I'm working with it, working within it. And the most important thing that I have is I have hope. That's my time. Thank you.